All right, guys, welcome in to the Fly High Wi-Fi Mental Health Podcast. Excuse me for my voice and possible coughs as I've been sick for a couple weeks, but we're gonna get on with the show so you guys can hear about these important topics that we are talking about today. As you see, I am Ryan, Pros23, Sharp, whatever you guys want to call me. You have Mrs. Wi-Fi, Alyssa, or whatever you guys want to call her at this point. Oh, I can't laugh because I'm gonna cough. All right, so today we're gonna go over the topics of attachment styles, ADHD in gaming, and the importance of setting boundaries. So you guys know a lot of the community that we share with today. A lot of it's about gaming, so that's why ADHD in gaming was one of the topics that I wanted to go over. And it's huge for me. My kids, I know a lot of people in the viewership have kids also, so I felt it was very important to address this topic as we're mainly a gaming.
Did you do research on it?
I did,
Oh, good.
but that was like 3 weeks ago. So we'll get there though. We'll get there. We'll get there. All right. All right. Which topic do you want to start with?
I figured we could do the attachment styles slash attachment theory first, and then do ADHD and gaming, and then talk about setting boundaries. So setting boundaries is more of kind of like an open discussion. There's a little bit
Right.
behind it, more of kind of just letting people know it's a healthy
Oh, it's
thing
healthy
to
to
do.
set boundaries. Absolutely.
So jumping into attachment styles or theory, um, this is something that's been studied for 5 decades. So there's 5 decades of research. But the one I'm going to talk about today is the most popular one, or the one that people keep going back to and researching even more.
Okay.
So within the 5 decades of research, it shows that your earliest emotional bonds with the person most responsible for your well-being. So most of the time it's your birth parents, but we all know that sometimes it's not. Can directly affect your health and your future relationships.
Okay.
So how you make friendships, how your romantic relationships are, everything in your life, and that's called the attachment theory. It's one lens we can use to better understand who we are and why we behave the way we do with people we love.
Okay.
So it's not an excuse, but it kind of helps you understand why you're reacting in different ways.
Okay.
Um, so the most famous study comes from 1969. The experiment is called the strange situation,
Change,
which gave the 4 styles of attachment that we know today.
which are, if I'm gonna guess, secure,
Yep,
avoidment,
yep,
avo- disordered,
yep.
and Im- what is the other one?
Anxious.
Oh no, close.
So the 4 from this study are secure, anxious, avoidant, and disordered.
Okay.
Or disorganized. Sorry. So within this study, they had babies and their parents in a room together. The parents would leave, then return a few minutes later, and the reactions from the babies were monitored. So that's how they developed these attachment styles.
Okay.
So secure, babies would become upset when their parents would left and were comforted by their return. So they were upset their parents left, but when their parents came back, they were completely okay. Anxious attachment style. Babies would become very upset when their parents left and would be difficult to comfort upon their return.
After the return. Okay.
Avoidant attachment. Babies would barely react, or not react at all when their parent left or returned. And then disorganized attachment. Babies had more like erotic reactions to their parents leaving or returning, such as hitting their heads on the ground or freezing up. So they like went one side or the other, like they just didn't do anything, or they were doing like uncontrollable reactions.
Okay.
So they noticed that these babies' reactions were based on their attachment styles.
Oh wow, that's from 1969. That's
Mm-hmm. And this study's only grown, so like everyone keeps going back to this one to study more. So the 4 attachment styles from this strange situation experiment, 1 is considered a secure attachment, and then the other 3 are considered insecure attachment styles. So the anxious, avoidant, and disorganized are considered insecure attachment styles.
okay.
And within these, all of these fall on a spectrum. So you can be on one end or the other. So you can be kind of disorganized, but you can be lower on the spectrum. Then so people can react.
Multiple different spectrums.
Yeah. So secure attachment styles. There's about 58% of adults are securely attached. I was surprised by that. I think that 58% of people have secure attachment styles. I don't know, I guess in the world we live in, I expected that to be lower.
Yeah, you like you said, that study is older, but everybody keeps coming back to it. I wonder if generational this might change with like technology. Like
so these numbers are from 2015.
Okay, so there's 9 years of studies. Could be different. We'll come back to it.
Anxious attachment style. About 19% of adults have this type of attachment styles.
Okay.
Disorganized attachment styles. Where's the number at? I don't see a number. It's not giving a number.
Okay. Maybe a little harder to pinpoint.
Yeah, maybe. Avoidant attachment styles though is 23%.
23%.
If you subtract those, less than 10% would have the disorganized.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the number though. So they break it down more on how these different attachment styles, how does it form? So disorganized attachment styles form by fear or trauma. So that's typically how that disorganized attachment style happens.
Okay. Muffin.
Oh,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say Muffin asked. I believe we kind of touched it, but you can have more than one attachment style, like a little of 2 of them, right?
Yeah, because you fall on that spectrum, so you can be like low on maybe the disorganized, but you're more of the anxious. They do say that's very uncommon that people have more than one, but you can.
Okay.
It depends on like which, I guess, part of you is coming out at that point, which like protective part is going to come out. So the avoidant attachment style is most likely to form when a caregiver doesn't provide for the baby and a significant emotional support. So they can provide in all the other ways, like physical ways, but they don't provide that emotional support.
Okay.
Anxious attachment style can form when the primary caregiver doesn't or aren't consistent in meeting the baby's needs. So that's in any way. So they're kind of there, then they're not. And then obviously babies form secure attachment styles when the caregivers are consistently fulfilling a baby's physical and emotional needs.
Contact and emotional attachment with babies, they like skin to skin contact is young.
You're breaking up a little bit, Brian.
Skin to skin contact is very necessary when they're young to help build that bond. And kids need the emotional attachments just as much as the parents do to feel like they're closer to their baby.
Mm-hmm. So how attachment styles affect your adult relationships, it's how you communicate. It can even have a risk of relationship violence. So if you're one of like the insecure attachment styles, not saying it does happen, but it increases it. And then how do you know like what your attachment style is? It pretty much just goes into like there's no shortage of information, but the only way to truly know is to go see a counselor or a therapist to help them work you through getting diagnosed with what type of attachment style you are, and then you can work through how to like, if you are, I guess, not the secure attachment style, how to kind of bring yourself to properly attach to people.
Okay. Makes sense. That's more subject matter into it and signs and everything that you show towards each one.
It's pretty much all I have for it right now.
Okay. It seems like it's a bigger study, so
I'd like to eventually just like break them down each one.
okay. We can do in the later shows. Does Chad have anything on those? Questions, concerns? So the next topic we're going to be moving into is going to be the ADHD in gaming. For me, this is a big one, as I do have ADHD and I obviously love to game. So from an early age, gaming has been one of the biggest things that I've leaned on as my crutch to get away from reality, not knowing that it really was more of an addiction than anything. And it becomes an issue when it's not monitored, because as a kid, my mom being involved in drugs and not really being there, I was able to play my game as much time as I wanted. It didn't matter what time of day or where it was. If I wanted to play my game, I just played my game for hours on end. It was never screen time like we have now where it's monitored. It created that safe haven for me. Is always what I went to when things were going tough, or I knew that I wouldn't get in trouble in my room playing my game. They do show studies that gaming doesn't create ADHD. ADHD is something that is still a chemical imbalance in the brain. It's something that is physical, not created because you're doing it.
You're still breaking up a little bit, Ryan.
Okay.
I know you can't get much closer to your
Yeah.
mic, but
The one big thing that I know that ADHD is big with is a big thing for ADHD is instant gratification and stimulation. So gaming usually fulfills that right away for a lot of people with the fast moving, the bright colors. Like, it's something for your mind to keep finding new things right away. It doesn't allow you to get bored right away. So the other downfall, though, is hyper focus. When you hyper focus into something, ADHD is huge for that. It's big for children with ADHD. Online gaming can be more than just recreation. The game can help them build important skills, also to include visual skills, hand-eye coordination, strategy and problem solving, planning, sequencing, and prioritizing, collaboration and teamwork, and in time management. What else? So it's not all bad when it comes to ADHD and gaming. It just needs to be monitored in understanding when you might have more of an issue of that's all they want to do. So if you take your game away from your children and they're not prepared for it, they might throw a fit. They might get mad. They might temper tantrums, like get mad at you, say things they don't mean. It's because they're upset, and that's when it becomes the issue. And like Muffin said, hyper focusing is also hard because sometimes you'll be calling your child, or even you as an adult, somebody might be calling your name and you still don't hear them because you're so hyper focused on what you're doing. It's not that they don't want to listen to you, it's just sometimes they don't hear you. So it's hard. I do it. I can't say that I don't. I could have my my wife sitting right next to me calling my name as I'm locked in and playing a game, but yet another excuse is I got like a big headset on to where I can't really hear nothing outside of it anyways. But um, see the warning signs that says for some kids with ADHD can spend too much time in front of video games. Work with your child to agree on rules about how long and when they can play. Also be careful that the video games aren't replacing other activities kids should have, like social interactions, time with your family, physical activity, and etc. Make sure homework and household chores are done before they pick up the controller or tablet, which is huge because then that's now what we will be talking about next is boundaries. So that's a form of a boundary for them to understand that until they can get on their game, they have to do these certain things, and they might throw a fit about it from day to day. Their reaction to doing the same things over and over again might be different every day. I don't understand it. My kids know we go to bed every day at 9 o'clock for school nights, but some nights they get right off, do what they're supposed to, and go straight to bed. Other nights they're like, but why? Do we go through this every night, guys? Like, it's the same routine. It's nothing's different. So
So I read when I was doing a little bit of research on this, gaming releases dopamine.
yes,
So for this, it's like a good thing, but if there's too much of it, that's the same chemical that the brain releases when you can get hooked on things like alcohol and drugs. So that's what they're talking about when it can start to become a bad
the addiction
habit.
side of it.
Yeah.
Right, creating addictive traits and habits.
So that's where you have to set that boundary of the dopamine is a good thing, but then you're crossing that line of it becoming a bad habit for children and anybody.
Right. Like I said, they say no video games do not cause ADHD, the neurological condition. It, too much time really depends on the kid. They're able to handle their daily activities and not create any hardships with it, then just monitor it closely. Don't allow it to get too far to where it is creating the hardships and the arguments and the temper tantrums, fights, and the breakdowns. Still have to allow them to do the other things, such as social interaction and physical activities, going outside. They do have their first prescription video game.
There's a prescription video game?
Yes, and I wanted to look that up. I learned.
Well, you find that another thing that makes video games so, I guess, appealing or good for those who have ADHD is that frontal lobe for people who have ADHD, it's always stuck in like an abnormal or just regular state of like waves or patterns. So video games are able to capture that attention
constantly.
because because it's like a constant change. So that's the reason why video games kind of interlock.
So this game is called Endeavor RX. So it is the only doctor prescribed video game treatment for kids with ADHD. What else? I didn't know there was actually a prescription video game. So how Endeavor works, it's a sensory stimuli and motor challenges to target areas of the brain that play a key role in attention functions. Kids are challenged to multitask and ignore distractions by navigating courses, collecting targets, and avoiding obstacles. An algorithm measures performance and customizes each patient's treatment in real time. Endeavor RX is typically played for about 25 minutes, 5 days a week, for at least 4 consecutive weeks, or as prescribed. Parents can follow their child's treatment with an app and check daily efforts and level completion. It's supposed to be difficult. The game is meant to be challenging, so make sure to encourage your child while they play. And I do know that's another thing huge with kids with ADHD is encouragement instead of constantly being talked down on or being broken down as they're doing something they're not supposed to. Positive reinforcement with somebody with ADHD will get you a lot farther than a child that you constantly tear down and beat down. Telling them they're constantly doing something wrong is always going to have a negative effect versus giving them positive reinforcements on even the smallest things. I deal with it in my oldest. He holds on to all the negative things versus all the positive things. Even if you do give him all the positive graces in the world, if we have one bad day and you say something like stop being a baby, for instance, stop being a baby, the first thing that comes out of his mouth might be, I'm not being a baby. All he hears is the word baby. Not really like taking in everything else you're saying because they hold on to the negative part of being called a baby. Well, not calling them directly a baby, but that's all they hear. It huge. Positive reinforcements with kids with ADHD is more of a must than people realize. Hell, if I would have been told I was doing a lot more things and right growing up, I probably would have stayed in high school and not joined the military. But military was big for me because, again, stimulation and constant growing. I don't know how I made it through the military with my ADHD because you are talked down on. You are treated very, very poorly to mentally strengthen you. Yeah, Muffin, that video game, I just found out about it too while I was doing the research for what we're talking about right now. So it's a newer thing. I guess with growing with the times, adapting to it, there some good research behind it, and it became a prescription video game at the time. So looks like the dogs are giving you fits.
Yeah, they're not wanting to listen tonight. Odin, go. Go lay down. Hey, go.
I did think that was interesting that there was an actual video game that is supposed to help. It says 68% of parents reported improvement in ADHD related impairments after 2 months of this treatment. 73% of children reported improvement in their attention. And then there has been 0 reports that there were no serious adverse events seen in any children's during the trials of
That's actually really good. When did that game come out? Like, when did they?
Find the about.
Can't hear you talk.
Yeah, I was mumbling to myself.
Oh,
I don't know. I'll have to look into that. I don't want to hold up everything on that. I can Google. Come on, keyboard. It is FDA approved.
that's good.
Uh, it was published in 2021. So I'm guessing it's been in development for a little while, but it was official in 2021.
Oh, so that's a recent game.
Yeah. And it's usually for the ages 8 to 12, the primary age that it's prescribed for.
That would make sense because that's typically, at least when like boys are getting diagnosed, is around that age frame.
Right. I know the earliest that we could have Grayson diagnosed was at 6 years old. Because we've seen the early stages of it. We tried the whole like diet regime, no red dyes, oils. We tried all that in him, and he was still like having his certain episodes in having trouble in school, and he started early development. So your daughter was diagnosed at 11. So yeah, it's usually anywhere. I know it's usually a little easier in boys to see early on than it is. I was diagnosed early on myself too. I think I want to say I was in third grade. So I
For
was
what that's
around 8. I struggled with it. They put me on all different kind of medications, sent me to different counselors. I was struggling in school.
well, the medications can have effects on you too. So
Yeah. No Ritalin. They put me on Ritalin first, and that one put me in torment because the doctor would suggest that I don't take it on the weekend so I wouldn't suppress my appetite. I would still be able to eat. I was already so skinny. And like I was kind of, now we learn as we get older, I really was detoxing in those two
I was just
days.
that would make
Yeah.
your
So it allows your levels to go up and down, right? And have an emotional disadvantage for that too for the child. Guess I should have got another look at it from a different doctor. So that's really, there's a lot to go into that. They just say that there's no causes of ADHD coming from video games, but video games do help or hurt depending on how
I
much.
just have to
Yeah.
find the balance so it
Yep.
doesn't become an addiction.
Yep. That's all I have on that.
I put my 2 cents in while you were talking, so
You did. All right. Wait, the other one was we're talking about boundaries, the importance of setting boundaries, correct? Right.
um so most people do struggle with setting boundaries for themselves. Um First thing is not being able to set healthy boundaries can actually relate to common issues like low self esteem, depression, needing to have approval from others, learned helplessness, and the fear of being rejected.
You just
So
explained me all in a T right there.
you're welcome. We're
Yeah,
beating up
thanks.
Ryan.
Yeah, today's about me. No. Um, to go off of the seeking approval from others real quick. Um, those boundaries for me almost destroyed my marriage because I was always looking for attention from others than the ones that were giving to me right here in my face every day. I allowed myself to cross boundaries that I should have never crossed. I did things that I am not proud of, but I have learned from and now have learned how to adapt and overcome those and notice when I'm doing those things. And I believe I just talked to another fellow streamer about this a couple weeks ago. That's why streaming's huge for me. Because before I would go out and try to get that attention from somewhere else if I wasn't seeking, but now I can do it inside my own four walls while still giving those boundaries set to my relationship at home. And it comes to me. I don't have to go out for it. And streaming has been huge for that, for me in that sense. And it took for my best friend's wife, who had done, not necessarily stepped out of her marriage, but was allowing somebody else kind of to be there as an emotional support, for her to look me in the face and say, "You're just like me. You need attention. You need to stop trying to seek it from other places instead of who's giving it to you right there." And that's when I realized that's the things that I was doing. So I had to set those boundaries with not only myself, to respect myself, but to respect my wife. So I've learned.
Not done? You good?
Yeah.
I want to interrupt. I know Ryan and I've talked a good bit. So this next one, boundaries create trust and build healthy relationships. Even when some people don't like what you do, they will likely respect you for standing up for what you believe in. They also generate safety in relationships. This can go with friendships, relationships, work boundaries, just about anything. It's kind of like your stance on where you are.
Okay.
So it goes back to a lot of the conversations we had, having self-awareness of who you are and what you like, truly who you are. Understanding where you're willing to kind of give and take in friendships, relationships, kind of where your hard boundaries are of yes and no. I've walked away from friendships before just because of the association that they were being a part of, and they didn't want to change those associations and or help themselves. And that goes with, you have to help yourself for other people to help you as well. They can't drag you across that finish line, because even if I drag you across that finish line, you're going to go right back over it. So those boundaries can be boundaries that you're setting.
Yeah, we talked about this recent events where some people, if they don't want to help themselves, you can give them all the help that you think they need, but they might not accept it fully until they want to help themselves.
So when, I don't know how I want to get back into this. Crossing your stated boundaries is similar to, or if you like state your boundaries, and this is anywhere, crossing your stated boundaries is similar to verbal, emotional, or physical abuse. So you have to state your boundaries. You have to state where you stand, because people can't read your mind.
Right,
So
you have
this
to make
comes
them
where
known.
you have to make them known. It's important to know that people who don't like the new you or who you are likely not your people.
Right. They are not truly the people you need around you.
Boundaries are rules for how others learn to behave around you, how you want to be treated, what you will accept and what you will not accept. There's something, I know we all have like the golden rule, treat people how you want to be treated. But it's also understanding how that person wants to be treated themselves. Because I think of it like at work, some people don't do well under pressure, so you can't just yell at them to get them to do something, because they can crumble under being yelled at.
Right.
They might need to be talked to at a softer tone, explained to a little differently, and they're going to do the work that way. So understanding how they want to be talked to or treated is different than just yelling at every single person. I'm somebody that you have to yell at me to get something done if I'm not getting it done.
Right.
So, along with your boundaries, understanding who you are and stating them, people should be able to respect those boundaries and treat you and respect your boundaries just the way they would want their boundaries to be respected.
Absolutely. Not every person's the same. Not every person learns the same. Everybody reacts the same to every situation.
Just like I said, it all starts with self awareness, and no is a full sentence. That comes to like everything.
No is a full sentence. You're right.
You don't have to explain yourself. Um, no, no period is a full sentence. You don't have to say, no, I can't come to this party because XYZ or whatever it may be. Like, if that's your boundary, no is no.
Hear that, guys? You don't always have to explain yourself. No is a full sentence. That's a big one, actually. I think that's underused.
I heard no is a full sentence probably 2 years ago at a work conference. And it like hit me like a freight train because I'd always be like, no, and I have to like, I'd write like a big long email explaining why it was no. And then I was like, I just started being like, no. Like, it became like a whole new thing of like, no.
That easy.
No. Yeah, it was that easy. Just like, no is a full sentence. And like, some people, this stuff has to take it takes practice, takes years. But like, the no is a full sentence really hit me. And it came about as like, that is so true. I don't need to explain myself why I'm saying no.
Right. Muffin said the ones that ask why don't understand what no means.
True.
And that's one of the biggest things that I said about the military was like the struggle for me as I got farther into my career and I got higher in rank was everybody always asks why. Why? Why do we gotta do this? Why are we doing that? Easy answer was because I damn well told you to do it. But because I was told to tell you to do it is really mainly what it was. But the Y generation was but no. No.
Carry with you tonight, Ryan.
I'm tired. I don't feel good. I'm just, making it through the podcast here.
No, really, if that's the only thing people carry with them tonight, like no is a full sentence.
It worked.
That one hit me. Yeah. That was
Don't make me
so hard
laugh.
at a conference.
Oh, I had to mute for that one. Yeah, that one is gonna be something that I'll have. I honestly should try that more myself. Really should. I don't do it. I always have an explanation why I said no or why I'm not doing it or whatever's going forward. But
Yeah, that one was a very big and very quick change for me. It even like shocked people around me when I just started saying no and like walking away or just sending no back.
probably get a lot of backlash at first, but they'll start to understand.
I don't really remember if I did, but I also just was like, whoop, here you go, no. But yeah, it's really important to set healthy boundaries for yourself, for friendships, relationships, work, and like healthy boundaries. Like,
Right.
I can't tell people what their boundaries should be, but so just like keep in mind they should be healthy boundaries.
Right. His boundaries help determine what is and not okay in a relationship, whether it be with friends, partners, coworkers, bosses, or family members. Ideally, we put them in a place to protect our well-being. They help us to build trust, safety, and respect in relationships. Common boundaries include emotional, physical, sexual, intellectual, and financial. Financial is probably one of the biggest things that I can say I have talked to a lot of people about struggles in a relationship. And I know huge. And they can apply to every aspect of your life where you feel they are needed. Ready to start setting boundaries? It requires certain amounts of self-awareness and reflection.
And I will say, when you start setting boundaries and people start to push back, you want to crumble. You want to say like, okay, I'll give in just this once. I mean, depending on the situation, if you feel like you can, I guess, do it. But you should hold strong to your boundary, because once one person sees you crumble to that boundary, they're not going to take it serious. So more people are going to start attacking that boundary.
Right.
So especially if it's a boundary that you truly, truly feel strong about, it might be hard, but definitely stand your ground and understand that that's who you are. That's a boundary that you've made.
One person sees it, the other one's going to try too. There's one, there's many. That. I agree with boundaries. Myself, I had to learn my own boundaries, set my own boundaries, and respect my own boundaries.
Yeah, and it's not like Ryan just said. It's not just for other people; it's for yourself too.
Right. If you can't respect your own boundaries, what's going to make you want to respect others?
Yeah.
Muffin said, "This is why I don't have many friends, and I set boundaries and are stuck with it, and those friends don't come around anymore." The true friends that stick around.
Yeah, those aren't your people.
Those aren't your people. Anything else on boundaries?
No, that's all I got.
But quality over quantity. Absolutely. I agree with that. I'd rather have 3 true friends than 100 fake friends. Learned that growing up too. But I was friends with everybody, buddy, until they all stabbed me in my back. Standing there holding my pants down, no one to wipe for me.
You learned all the life lessons for us, huh, Ryan?
Oh yeah. Muffin says I'm stuck with her. No, you're stuck with me. All right. Chat, you guys got anything else? I'm tired.
You go sleepy sleep.
No, probably not. Both kids are sick too.
Oh, you try to rest up.
Probably be right here. Yelling at Call of Duty.
Well, hopefully in 2 weeks, you're back to normal.
Been a month. Been fighting this for almost a month.
That's why I'm giving you 2 more weeks.
2 more weeks. Yeah, all right, sounds good. As long as this cough goes away. I don't have anything. All right, guys. On behalf of Fly High Wi-Fi, this will conclude our mental health podcast. And we will be back in a few weeks, hopefully with me feeling better, with some new topics. And you guys just be on the lookout for it being shared all over social media. Remember to check us out on all the major platforms. Guys, we are on Facebook. We are on Twitter. And the prior episodes are on Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, you name it except for Apple. We're still working on Apple. We'll get there. But they are on there, guys. If you would, guys, go find them, share them, listen to them for us. It only helps us grow and reach out to more people. We'll address that in a second, Jerry. But thank you for joining us tonight, guys. Love you. Bye.
Bye.